My name is Bourdon, and this story is the story of the broken pot. Now, it's not my story, it's all of our stories. And tomorrow, when you share it with somebody else, it can be their story too. It's how stories work. In any event, the story of the broken pot. So, a long, long time ago, somewhere else, there was these two pots. Now, they were both made out of the same clay, they were created by the same artisan, and they were fired in the same kiln. And now they were being sold at the same market. And a young woman came to the market and she bought the two pots so that she could carry water for her family. And that's exactly what she did. See, she lived in this little house that was on top of a hill that had a long meandering path that came down to the bank of this river that had the most pristine, fresh, clean water in it. And that's what she did. Every morning, she would take a wooden pole and put it on her neck with the two pots on either side. And she would walk down that path. And she would scoop up water and put the pole back on her neck, and she'd walk back up the path to her house. Now, this went on for years, decades even. It went on for so long that the woman's family ended up passing away. And she was no longer a young woman. She was now an older woman, and she was alone. But she had these two pots. And every morning she would hoist the pots up on her neck, and she would go down that path and fill them up with water. Now, one morning, one of the pots developed a crack in it, and it started to leak the water. Now, the pot tried to not tell anybody or give himself up, so he just played it cool. And for years, he tried to ignore the crack in himself and ignore that he was leaking water. But finally, one morning, when the woman brought him down to the riverbank, he just broke down and he said, "I'm so sorry for not being good enough. I'm so sorry that I'm not as good as the other pot, because the other pot carries all the water, and I know that I leak a lot of my water out. I am cracked and I'm broken, and for that I apologize." Now, the old woman, she just looked down at the little pot, and then she smiled and she said, "I want to show you something." And she turned the little pot, and it faced the meandering path on the way up to the house. She said, "Do you see that pathway, little pot? Do you see what's on it and what's not on it?" The little pot said, "I don't understand." And she said, "Well, if you look at the path, on one side it's nothing but dried grass and rocks and dust and dirt. But on the other side, you'll see that there's flowers and there's fruit trees and there's beautiful shrubs and vegetables growing on the ground." And the pot said, I don't understand." And the woman said, "This whole time that you've had a crack in you, I've known, and I know that you were spilling water. And so on your side of the path, I planted the seeds for the trees, the shrubs, the vegetables. I planted the flowers because I knew that you would water them on the way back to the house. So don't feel bad, little pot. Don't feel like you're not doing the job as the other pot, because you're doing the exact job that you're supposed to be doing. You deliver the perfect amount of water. You don't flood the trees, the flowers, and the seeds. You don't famine them either. You water them perfectly with the best water on the face of the planet. And so there's nothing wrong with you, little pot. There's nothing wrong at all. You're perfect just the way you are. And I thank you for it." Now, that's the story of the little pot and being broken. And I think that we can all relate to this in a different way. Sometimes we feel inadequate, or we don't feel as good as the other person on the other side of that pole. Sometimes we feel like our flaws are stopping us or holding us back, when really they make us original. They make us defined as who we are. And now, if you're a person that knows a broken pot, then it's your job or our job to go ahead and plant those seeds for those flowers, the trees, the shrubs, the vegetables. It's important that we nurture everything around us, whether they think they're broken or not.